Good morning, folks. This is Bob Cramer from Mossy Creek Fly Shop, and this morning we're going to be tying a fly that I came up with last summer. I call it the Crafty Minnow. It's a kind of a unique fly in that it's a topwater minnow. It floats right in the surface film with its nose sticking out of the water. It's a little bit unique in that it lays on its side, like an injured minnow on top of the water. And when you give it a pull, it darts under and then comes floating back up to the surface. The fly draws explosive strikes. I've had smallmouth bass come up out of 10 feet of water and crush this thing on the top. Let's talk just a minute about the tools that we're going to use to tie this fly, what you need to gather up. I have a hair stacker, my scissors, a bobbin with GSP thread on it. It's extremely strong. I mean, it's almost impossible to break, and I tie this fly fairly tightly, so I put a lot of pressure on it. I have basically a comb to comb out my bucktail. I have a hair packer here that has 4 different size holes in it. I have Loctite gel control super glue. I have Loon UV clear fly finish in the thin, and my UV light, and a big pair of cuttings that I use to tie this fly. I use Gamakatsu B10S stinger hooks in size 1. I use CK baitfish tails. They're available from Mossy Creek Fly Shop. 10 of them are $3.95. I use the fish eyes. To get this fly to float, I use foam strips, adhesive backed. They have paper on there, you just pull that off. And I buy those in big sheets like this from Michael's department store. They're like $1.59 a sheet or something like that, and that'll tie hundreds of flies. It comes in a variety of colors also. And then I use bucktails. Whatever color you want to use is fine. Okay, so this morning here we're going to tie one of these. I'm going to secure the hook in the vise. It really is nice to have a rotary vise when you tie this fly, so you can turn it over and look at it. I'll start by securing the thread right behind the eye. And I'm going to lay a base all the way back to the bend of the hook. Then I'm going to bring the thread 2/3 of the way back up to the eye. We're laying this fly on the side. These tabs are designed to solidify the tail when you tie it on in the conventional method. They fold up and glue on the sides. But for laying it on the side, I'm going to snip these tabs off. And then just try to get my cuts even. And I'm going to begin by laying that point on top. I'm going to make about 4 or 5 wraps to get it secured down, and then I'm going to fold that tail around the hook. And I'm going to wind it back to where I stop my thread, just like that. Once I get it there, I hold the tail, and I really put a lot of pressure on it. Tied down good and firm. Now the next step is I'm going to put a little red bucktail and have it flare right back there off the hook. Now I can't stress, anytime you're working with bucktail, it's real important to get all the short fibers out. So I'm very particular about cleaning the bucktail out. It's not necessary to stack this. If you want to like get it ultimately neat, you can stack this bucktail. And what I'll do, once I get it stacked, I'll pull out anything that's real long off the tips. This actually looks pretty good. Now I want this, I'm going to lay this on top here and I'm going to measure it. And I want it to come about halfway back the length of the tail. I'm going to make a couple loose wraps. And then with my thumb on top, I'm going to spread that around the hook shank just by rolling my thumb like that. Once I do that, I tighten down on the thread and begin winding forward. And one of the reasons I'm winding forward like this is to create a base for the foam that I'm getting ready to put on it. I'll wind at least halfway up the shank of the hook. And once I get that wound up there like that, we'll pull this bucktail up, cut it off as close as I can, and then we'll cover those butts up. Then I'm going to bring the thread up close to the front just to get it out of the way. Alright, the next step, we're going to apply the foam. I'm going to use the Loctite control gel. I'm going to lay a little base of that right over those butts that I tied down. Now with the foam strip, I'm just going to peel that paper backing off of it. We'll lay it right over the top of those butts and I'm going to squeeze it down just like that. I like to hold it maybe 5 to 10 seconds, really get it secured on there. And then I'm going to wind this over the top one time. I'm going to come back to this side and I'm going to put another layer of this control gel right there. I just want to make sure that this gets locked down good. Then I'm going to go ahead and fold that over the top. Hold it. Let it get secured on there good. Then we'll pull that up, lay the scissors in there, and snip it off. That's what keeps the fly floating. Now, how high this fly floats in the water can be controlled by how wide, not how many turns, but how wide you have that float strip, that foam strip right there. Okay, now the next step is we're going to put the bucktail on. For this one, I'm going to use a combination of gray and red. Now, anytime you're working with bucktail, you're better off pulling way too much a lot more than you're going to use off than you are not enough. Bucktail's fairly cheap. I am really going to spend a lot of time cleaning this. I'll grab it by the tips out here. Get rid of anything that's really, really long. And I'm going to hold it by the tips, and I'm really going to comb this out. One of the things that's real important with this fly is to get all the little short stuff out. And you'll notice I went from having 3 times as much bucktail there as I have right now when I started. Alright, now I like to measure this. I like to hold it up there where I'm going to tie it in. And I also want it coming back about halfway on that tail. Once I get that measured, I'm going to cut it off. And since I'm going to make a mixture with this fly of bucktail, I'll take my hackle pliers. I'll just grab a hold of it like that. That's just to hold it while I get the other section ready. And now I'm going to do the same thing with the gray. I'm going to pull off a big, big bunch. Once again, I'm going to hold it up there, and anything that's real long I'm going to pull out. I'm going to grab it by the tips, and I'm going to comb that out. I'll get it as clean as I can. The less short fibers I have in there, the better off the fly is going to turn out. Now I'm going to hold this up there, and I'm going to measure this too. I want it to approximately the same length as the red is. Okay, now I'm going to blend these two colors. I've got the red that I did earlier and the gray. So it looks like my gray is a little bit shorter, but not much. To solve that problem, I'm going to put it in the hair stacker. And stack it. Alright, once I have it stacked, I can pull that out. You can see it basically stayed at the same place. Alright, now, this is a real important step. Once I've done that, I'm going to grab this by the tips again, and I'm going to clean this again. Look at that. Anything that's short, I want out of there. Alright, when I tie this in, I'm going to bring the thread back about halfway between the foam and the eye of the hook. I'm going to lay this right in there with the butts of it up against that foam. I'm going to make 3 loose wraps. Just let the weight of the bobbin hold it. And once I get that done, I'm going to take my thumb and push down on that and kind of roll it around the hook. Just like so. Once I've done that, I'm going to tighten down on it real tight. And I'm going to make probably 10 or 12 real hard wraps in there. Alright, now for just a neat finish on the head, anything you have sticking, any of those butts that you have sticking up past that foam, I like to just roll in there and snip them off. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this hair packer and we're going in here and put it on the eye of the hook. We'll push it back like that and bring my thread up against that hair packer and roll it around. Maybe 3 times. That gets my thread up in front of my deer hair. Then I'll take my fingers and just pull everything back and tie off the eye. Now, it's not really necessary to use a whip finish. You can use a whip finish, but it's not really necessary. Most of the time at this point, I'll just put a couple half hitches on there. Then I'll snip that thread off. Alright, now, to get this bucktail back over this foam, I'll take my hair stacker and I'm going to push this right up onto that foam, like that. Any bucktail that's hanging or gets hung up on the hook back in there, I'll straighten it out. Now I can roll this over and I can see where there might be any weaknesses. It looks like the hair is fairly evenly distributed here, but maybe not on the bottom. So maybe I can grab a little bit of that, slide it around. Then with my tying thread, I'm going to pull off 6 or 8 inches of it. I'm going right in behind that hair stacker, right in behind that foam. I'm going to tie all this down. I'm going to make like 5 or 6 wraps just to secure that in place. Next step is pull that off, and you basically have the head formed. You can go in there and pull out anything that's got away on your little stray, and we're ready to put the eyes on this fly. To do that, since it's laying, I want it to lay sideways on the water, I'm going to put a good drop of control gel on top of the fly, and I'm going to take one of my eyes and I'm going to lay it right in there on top and push it down. Then we'll flip the fly over, and I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. You also notice a sparkle on that foam there is bleeding through that bucktail. That's a good thing. I'm going to put this eye on this side, push it down, hold for about 5 seconds. And that's what I have right there. Alright, the next step is I'm going to put the fly finish on there. And I basically start with the eye. And this soaks into the head. And I try to coat everything from the back of the eyes forward. This is a neat product. It kind of self-levels. Another big advantage to having the rotary vise is if you get a little bit too much on there and it starts running around on you, you still have a little control over it. I like to make sure I get it all the way around the eyes. All right, once I'm satisfied with that, I'm going to turn my UV light on. I'm going to roll that vise around a couple times. Make sure I get that product set up good. Then I'm going to unwind this thread that I have holding down all that bucktail. Now, I'll hit that again with the light. And while you're using the light on it, most of the time you can see if you have any weak spots in your fly finish, if you need to touch up anything. Also, if by chance you still have some bucktail sticking up or something, and you want to smooth it down a little bit more, you can just pull it down, put a drop of the fly finish on there, and hit it with the light, and it'll lock it right in place. Alright folks, that's Cramer's Crafty Minnow right there. Very effective topwater smallmouth minnow pattern.